Hello, my dear students. Today I'm going to explain to you A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. This is Mrs. Eman Ahmed with you. I'm going to start explaining chapter 2. As you see, it's called The Wine Shop. And you know that the events of the novel take place in two cities, in London, England, and Paris, France. The wine shop is owned by Monsieur Duvarge. You know that Monsieur Duvarge was serving Dr. Manette before he went to the Bastille. Then he opened the wine shop with his wife, Madame Duvarge. They opened it in a very poor place in Saint Antoine's village. And he kept Dr. Manette in his wine shop in the garret, waiting for his daughter Lucy Manette and his friend Mr. Lorry to come and take him back to England. You know that Monsieur Duvarge is the leader of the Jacks, and he is helped by other members. Who are the Jacks? They are chosen brave men, very strong brave men. They are members of a revolutionary group called the Jacquerie. They are led by Monsieur Duvarge, as we said before, so Monsieur Duvarge is Jack 1. You will know later that he has a friend called Gaspard. He is one of the Jacks. They are preparing secretly for the French Revolution. You will know in this chapter that Charles Dickens, the author, is preparing for us and paving the way for the French Revolution through certain images. Those images are referring and foretelling something else, simply predicting the coming revolution. You will see 3 images. Each represents something that leads to what will really happen during the French Revolution. The first image, as you see, is the broken cask of wine or the broken barrel of wine. Monsieur Duvarge had a barrel of wine taken to his wine shop, but accidentally it was broken and it was turned into small pieces. So the red wine spread in all the streets of Saint Antoine's village. The poor people rushed into the streets trying to sip the wine which is mixed with mud. They didn't care. It's free wine. Remember, the mob, the poor people, the common people are very poor and thirsty. They didn't waste this chance. The men had to get mugs in order to fill it with wine, and the women took off their scarves and they dipped it in the wine in order to squeeze it into the little children's mouths. Duvarge was so angry when he saw that. He was not angry because he wasted the wine and lost some money. No, he was angry because of what he had seen by the poor people and what they were doing because of their poverty. So, the spilled wine shows that, or predicts that, it will be the blood of the noblemen that will spread all over the streets of France during the French Revolution. You know that this man is called Gaspard. He was one of the Jacks, right? And he was Duvarge's friend. He was angry when he saw the poor people, and he put his finger in the wine mixed with mud, and he wrote on one of the walls, blood. His friend Monsieur Duvarge was so angry, and he didn't like what Gaspard had done. And he told him, "Are you a subject of the Med Hospital? Are you crazy?" Why do you think Duvarge said these words to Gaspard? Because he didn't want to attract the attention of the noblemen that they were secretly planning for something against them, which is the French Revolution. So Duvarge asked Gaspard to immediately erase and wipe off the word blood from the wall. Okay, we are going to move to the second image, which is swinging of the lamp. You know that lamps are usually hanged on wooden posts in the streets of France. So the second image shows us that the shadow of those swinging of lamps, so that after the revolution, the noblemen are going to be hanged in the streets of Paris after the revolution. Okay, let's move to the third image. The broken pieces of wood from the barrel. As we said before, there were small pieces of wood floating in the red wine. It tells us, it predicts that France, and represents France as a ship sailing in a troubled, stormy sea without a safety shore. It means that France, during and after the French Revolution, is going to be in a messy situation with no government, no king and no queen, so the conditions are not stable anymore. By this, we have come to the end of chapter 2. And let's, before looking at the question, remember the most important things we have said. We talked about Monsieur Duvarge's wine shop, the garret where Dr. Manette was kept, and the jacks. We also talked about the 3 images foretelling the coming revolution, and when Duvarge became angry with Gaspard for writing blood on one of the walls, accusing him and blaming him of being crazy. He was not supposed to do that. Now, let's move to the questions on chapter 2, the wine shop. Question number 1. Some images were greatly depicted by Dickens to foretell the coming revolution. Explain. You know, of course, my dear students, the 3 images we talked about. When you talk about those images, how many? Right? There are 3 images. You are not going to say the images only. No, you will say the broken cask of wine and you are going to explain it. And what does it stand for? Then you will say the swinging of lampposts and you are going to explain it in detail. Then you will talk about the third one, which is the broken pieces of wood from the barrel, and you are going to explain it in detail to show what are those images representing or foretelling us. Question number 2. Are you a subject of the Med Hospital? Why do you write in the public streets? Comment. You know that in common questions you start with these words were said by, to, and then you say when. What's the occasion or the situation? So, in question number 2, the answer will be, these words were said by Monsieur Duvarge to Gaspard when Gaspard wrote the word blood on one of the walls. Duvarge blamed Gaspard for doing this because he didn't want to attract the attention of the noblemen for the coming revolution. It had to be kept in secret in order to be a successful one. Now, let's move to question number 3. Write short notes on the jacks. Of course, you have seen this in the chapter. Who are the jacks? They are, right, brave men, chosen carefully, and they were members of a revolutionary group called the Jacquerie. They were preparing secretly for the coming revolution under the leadership of Duvarge, who is Jack 1, and Gaspard, his friend, was one of the Jacks. Now, let's move to question number 4. Another quotation. He has lived so long, locked up, that he would be frightened, rave, tear himself into pieces. Now, this is a very important question. Remember when Duvarge was keeping Dr. Manette hiding in the garret, he was watched secretly by the Jacks through a very small hole in the wall. And when Mr. Lorry saw that, he was not happy with Duvarge. He was surprised. Why are you making a show of Dr. Manette and why are you keeping him locked? He was not taken out of prison in order to be locked up again. But Duvarge explained everything to Mr. Lorry. He told him, first of all, I cannot let him go free because he had been in prison for a long time and he would lose his mind if he suddenly finds himself free to go. He doesn't know any place to go to. Then those men who were looking at him carefully and watching him, they were the Jacks. He did that, Duvarge, for a certain reason, an important reason. He wanted the Jacks to see what the noblemen had done to Dr. Manette, how they had changed his life, how he had become after being in prison for that long time. He wanted to fill their hearts with anger and hatred against the noblemen. So when the revolution starts, they will be very strong in facing them. So the answer of question number 4 will be as follows. These words were said by Monsieur Devarge to Mr. Lorry, explaining to him why he locked Dr. Manette in the garret, because he didn't want Dr. Manette to be free, as he doesn't know what is outside the room. He is not recovering yet, so he had to be kept in the same environment in order to help him later to recognize the people and the environment around him. That will be all for chapter 2, my dear students. And then we have come to the end of this lesson. And the coming one, of course, is going to be chapter 3. Remember something, as we said before, this is very important. The events are taking place in 2 cities, just like the title of the novel, London and Paris. If you remember, chapter 1 was called what? Right, the Dover Mail in England. And now chapter 2 is called The Wine Shop in Paris. So as you see, characters and events are moving alternatively between the 2 cities. You will find some chapters in London, and you are going to find other chapters in Paris. Thank you very much. Goodbye.